What is going on, everybody? I am back today to do another Q&A session. And as I said recently in the video that I released, where I asked you guys some questions, I talked about some new ideas that I have for the channel, segments that I want to do here in the future, hopefully coming to you very soon. And I'm really looking forward to doing those things. It's just a way for me to stay excited about the channel and also give you guys some different content to pick and choose from. But as I said early on in that video, since I posted that last Q&A, throughout some random videos, I've had people ask me these like in-depth questions that are a little bit more than I want to just respond to on there, just interesting questions that I thought would be unique to bring to a Q&A video. And so I thought I would bring it over here and answer those questions for you in kind of a long form way today. I really like that so many of you out there are really communicative. I have a lot of fun like getting to know you. And so I feel like that's a way for you guys to kind of get to know me a little bit better. And I'm excited to do this today. So let's jump into some of these questions that you guys asked. So the first one is, what are some of your interests outside of just movies? Well, that is a great question. And I've talked about this a few times, like kind of scattered throughout a lot of these videos about my interests outside of just, movies in general. And I'm sure like you guys can imply through some of the clothes I wear and things that I reference, some of the things that I appreciate solely outside of movies. But first off, I'll just mention it. I'm a big sports guy. If you can't see my Cleveland Guardians baseball jersey, I'm an Ohio guy. I'm a huge fan of the three major Cleveland sports teams, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, the Browns. I grew up in Ohio. My family was big Cleveland sports fans. And throughout the years, I've just become really attached to the sports. And I played basketball growing up, and I played baseball for a little bit of time when I was really young. I've always really appreciated football, even though I've never played it. And one of the things I really love about sports in general is I just really love the communal feeling around it. Like the city of Cleveland, there's just something very special about that part of Ohio and just the collective sort of like excitement and how everyone kind of just drops everything to appreciate these sports teams. And like being in those environments and seeing these sports played live is truly like one of my favorite things in the world. I really love it a lot. So that's a big part of my life. I watch most of the games. I think in the Cavs season this year, I've only missed like 2 games, and I'll watch probably 100 plus of the Guardians games this summer, and I'll watch every Browns game in the fall. I love sports. Outside of that, talked about it a ton. Music is an enormous part of my life. I'm going to be starting a segment really soon about album reviews, as I talked about in that video, and I have a record collection of over 1,200 vinyl records. I love music from all different genres and backgrounds. I love a ton of different artists. I go to probably anywhere from 15 to 40 concerts a year. I've been doing that since I was 18 years old. Live music is something that's incredibly special to me. I love seeing artists perform their craft live. And it's just like going to the movies. I mean, seeing a director put something up there for you in its intended format in a movie theater, very much similar to seeing an artist perform live. There's just something so special that that can't be replaced from that. There's something you can really enjoy about listening to an album at home, but I also think there's something really special about seeing an artist perform in person. So that is a big love of mine as well. You guys have also seen I've done some segments on here where I compare books to movies, and I love reading. I would say for the past probably 3 years, I've managed to read anywhere from 50 to 80 books a year. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I also read books physically. I read all different genres. I love to continuously educate myself and learn and read all different genres. I kind of flip between classics and modern books. My favorite are like suspense horror thrillers. I read a lot of modern horror. I read a lot of like intense, violent, psychological horror. But I also like to read, Frederick Bachman, a lot of these authors who write really kind of wholesome fiction, and I'm a big fan of reading. I also love art. I have a lot of art around my house, not anything like super fancy, just like I love like independent artists and supporting independent artists. I also have 3 dogs that are my entire life, so I love spending time with my dogs. So that's a big part of my hobby time, is spending time with my dogs and enjoying time with them, who also love just sitting on the couch with me and watching movies. That's a really cool thing about my dogs. And also, as I've said before, I really love to cook. I always love to learn learn new recipes. I love to make new recipes, and I have fun cooking. It was a big part of my life growing up. It's a big part of my first college degree. My grandmother was really big early in my life teaching me how to cook, and so I had a lot of fun doing that. So yeah, that's just kind of a wide array of my interests. I really love all of those things. I kind of try to section out my time to appreciate all that on top of making all of this content for YouTube. And so that's just kind of a brief background of all the things that I enjoy doing and some of the things outside of movies that I like. The next question is, how do you deal with negative comments or mean comments on your YouTube videos? Well, this is an interesting question. Luckily for me, I don't get a lot, and I don't know if it's because of the way that I present myself or how I talk on these videos. Every now and again, I'll get someone who is like really adamant on trying to like make me mad, but I do think a lot of what I've noticed in the negative remarks, and I always try to address this, and it's hard because like when you type something out through text, people can't necessarily get your tone. Most of the negative comments that I get, I feel like, are people who are trying to change my mind on a movie. Like if there's something I really don't like, I'll get page-long, thesis comments on like, this is why you are wrong. And a lot of times, like, I'm always okay with engaging in that, but what I've noticed about a lot of the ones that I have is when I provide a counterpoint, people will attack me personally, whether it's call me stupid or uneducated or non-knowledgeable of certain things. And I don't ever sink to that point when I talk to someone. I learned early on in high school debate and in debate, when you start attacking someone personally, you lose a debate. And for me, I make this content, and I've said this before, I make this because I love movies. I do. And every time I go to watch a movie, I want to like it. I don't ever go to the movies like, man, I really hope this sucks and feels like a waste of an hour and a half to 3 hours of my life. I don't think anyone wants that. And so when I don't like something, I'm not seeking out to not like it. And I've actually had a comment before of like, you just want to be on the train of disliking someone. That would be a pretty miserable way to live life if you're truly just looking to hate something. As someone who grew up in high school, incredibly pretentious about my music taste and unwilling to like listen to popular music and music of all genres, who now loves like Carly Rae Jepsen and Sabrina Carpenter and a lot of pop artists, and has just kind of been like, I denied myself for so long appreciating different styles of art. People appreciate different things. Art impacts people differently. And so with a lot of the negative comments, because they're typically geared at trying to change my mind, I'll just have a rational conversation with a person and kind of reiterate my points and say like, hey, if this works for you, great. Like for me, if I go online and there's a reviewer that I really love that does not like a movie that I really appreciate, I just say, oh, well, it didn't work for them, and I move on with my life. I don't ever want like a review that I make on here to be like, you shape your opinion of a movie based on my review or any of these reviewers on YouTube. Now, if you don't like something and they do, maybe they can open your mind up to some of the things that you've not thought about. Like there's been times I haven't liked a movie that someone will present a point and I'll say, oh, I didn't think about it that way. It doesn't necessarily change whether or not I like the movie, but it's a cool way for you to have a dialogue and a discussion. And I think that's why reviews exist, is to get you to think about things critically or in a way that you might not necessarily think about them otherwise. And so like, I typically try not to let that stuff get to me. I got bullied really heavy in high school because I was a 6'+ kid who's now 6'9" almost. People made fun of me because I was tall. I wore glasses. I heard everything under the sun. I don't let those things get to me anymore. Like when people personally attack me, I'm just like, okay, whatever, you don't know who I am as a person. So I just try not to let the negativity get to me, because as someone who deals with high functioning depression and anxiety, I'm utilizing this as an outlet to like feel better. And so for me, I just kind of try to push all that stuff out by the wayside, and I don't let it get to me. Up next, someone asked, what are some standout movies to you as a kid? What are some movies that you think have impacted the way you think about film now? So that's a really great question. I feel like, my exposure to film as a kid was a lot less thinking critically about movies than I do now. Like, I appreciated watching movies when I was younger, but I feel like my teenage years was really when I started getting into like focusing analytically on film, like how are things shot, how is editing utilized, all of those little things. And I've highlighted it a million times, but I feel like one of the really early movies for me that I started thinking about those things at that type of a level was Hot Fuzz. I love Edgar Wright, and I feel like what I love so much about Edgar Wright as a filmmaker is his movies feel so incredibly alive. Like the editing, the musical choices, everything has a purpose to exposing parts of the plot. And that's what I love so much about his movies. Like even when you're watching Hot Fuzz and like you just see like musical cue-ins that like tie into the scene that just happened, that just get your mind to wonder more about what's going to happen next, and the way that Edgar sort of unravels mystery. That's something that I really appreciated about his work. And that was I saw that the first time it came out in 2007. So I was around 16, 17 years old when I watched that movie the first time. And that really started to get me think more critically about film. I always highlight Wes Anderson. The Life Aquatic is one of my favorite movies of all time. And that was a film that also really kind of changed my idea of what movie making can be, not just with how Wes kind of approaches visual style, like cinematography, but the musical incorporation, the sort of deadpan performances that his actors can give, that sort of give these characters all the ability to have someone attach on to their characteristics. There's also something just truly hilarious about the way that he gets actors to deliver dialogue. And I love that about Wes. I feel like his movies like really have viscerally impacted me over the years. And The Life Aquatic is one that I come back to quite a bit. And then like I'm a huge horror guy, and as cliche as it is, The Shining is another movie that at a young age really got me to think critically about how movies are made, which could there be someone better than Kubrick to really kind of open your eyes to filmmaking in general. But those are some of the ones early on in my life that I feel like I still come back to and think about it now, because earlier in my life there were movies that I really liked, but like I never really thought until about 16 or 17, thinking a little bit more critically about movies. But there were movies that I was in love with as a kid that I just really appreciated. But those are just a few that have stuck out with me over the years. Up next, how many movies are on your movie watch list? Well, the answer is a lot. I have a ton of movies on my Letterboxd watch list. I'm sure it's well over 500 or 600. I will literally click watch on anything, and I don't really work my way through the watch list. I know there's a lot of people that create a watch list and are like, this is how I'm going to go about like scheduling out my time and watching things like this. That's not how it works for me whatsoever. I literally just watch whatever I want to, or what's going to coincide with one of the series that I'm working with on YouTube. I wish that I could just go through my watch list and check mark one off, but I'm in the mood for one thing or another night after night after night. And so that can be a little bit difficult. But I still, that I'm growing that watch list, and that'll never change. Is it hard to make content daily for YouTube? I would say it's kind of a loaded question. I would say it's fun for me to create daily content for YouTube. I've been doing it for a few years now, where I've released a video every day, 365 days a year. But yes, it can be very hard. It's all about like figuring out where your time is going to go, because you have things that come up. Like I said, I like to watch sports. I like to listen to albums, play with my dogs, do all of these different things. And it can be hard to segment your time out to make sure you have watched enough content in order to facilitate that in the future. And the reason why I make daily content is because I would love to do this as a career. There's nothing more in my life that I would love than to do this as a career. And in order to do that, you have to have a pretty large audience. And I'm getting towards 3,000, and I'm grateful for each and every one of you. But in my mind, the way to grow an audience is to have a very large catalog of videos to watch. And my catalog is getting very large. I have a ton of videos that people can watch. I have stuff from different years and genres and all of those things, different directors. And so I'm building up that catalog, but sometimes it is really hard and it can be very daunting. But as I've said before, as someone who deals with mental health issues, it's really nice to have something that you can pour your time and effort and energy into that just kind of strips everything else away. And despite it being really hard, I'm very fulfilled by this, and I get a lot out of it. And you guys' comments bring me a lot of joy, and it's something that I look forward to every day. This one says, would you rather watch a movie in theaters or would you rather watch it at home? I love going to the movie theater. I really appreciate the theatrical going experience. I think it's gotten worse over the years. Sometimes it's really hard to go to the movies without there being a million distractions, someone getting on their phone, causing a disruption in the middle of the film. And I have a pretty decent setup at my house. I have a very large TV. I have a really nice setup, so I appreciate watching movies at home. I would prefer the theatrical going experience if it's the way that I like it, where there's not a lot of distractions and not a ton of talking. And I think there's a balance. Like, I can still really enjoy watching movies in both ways, but theatrical will always be near and dear to my heart. It's just taking the time and then, going to a place where there's not going to be a ton of disruptions or a crazy crowd, because I've experienced some stuff over the past 2 years I never would have imagined I would have seen at a movie theater, but here we are. But I can appreciate both. I like both experiences, and I'll continue to have both experiences. And then the last Q&A question I'll do today, someone asked me if I have any celebrity crushes. Well, I'm sure I am a human being, so yes, I do. What's interesting about me, though, is ever since I was really young, like, obviously you're a human being with emotions, so like you see someone and you find them attractive, that hits right away. But I feel like a lot of my celebrity crushes over time have been because of the way I attach myself onto a person's work. Like, if I really like someone as an actor, or I like a musician or someone in a specific field, I'll like attach myself onto their stuff and I really appreciate who they are. And so that crush, I guess, it's one of those things where I do have some. I feel like everyone does. A couple of mine right now, my biggest one ever is probably Phoebe Bridgers. I love her as an artist. I think she's incredibly intellectual. She's very funny. Just someone who I really appreciate a lot. Actress wise, Anya Taylor-Joy's always been a big one for me. I just find her incredibly compelling. I think that she's a very captivating actress. Who is just really impressive. Her line of work is just incredible. I've always really liked her a lot. I followed her since The Witch. She's just a very incredible actress who continues to deliver, and there are more than that, but I'll leave it at that today. And I thought that was a funny question in comparison to the rest that were on the video. So as always, I really appreciate you guys for asking these questions. I love doing Q&As, and I always love doing more. So if you didn't get your question answered, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do another installment of this. I just have a lot of fun with these videos. They're a blast, and I hope that it's a fun way for you guys to get to know me. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material. I look forward to getting more out for you in the near future, and I am so close to 3,000 subscribers. I'm like around 100 away. I just appreciate you guys supporting and sharing and telling other people. It's been great to watch this thing grow, and I'm really looking forward to hitting 3,000 soon. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.